Okay. Now, your first lesson in storytelling is don't sit on your ass, get up and get involved. So I'm going to stand up. Second lesson of storytelling is this. If you're way up here and they're way down there, you're wrong. So I'm coming down there. All right, let's start with a very simple exercise. I want you all to close your eyes. And I want you to visualize this simple sentence. Pat drove her fast car rapidly down the boulevard. Pat drove the fast car rapidly down the boulevard. You all have that in your head?
Is it her fast car?
The fast car. You all have it? Great. Got a question for you. Whoop. See if we can do this. What's the sex of Pat?
Her.
It's a female. How many people here pictured Pat as a female? All of you did. What's the make and model of that fast car? I'm not sure. Where was that made?
Oh, I don't know anything about cars, so I don't know.
Okay, let's try it this way. What's the color of the fast car?
Blue.
Blue. How many people had blue? How many people had red? How many people had green? How about black? One black. Okay, great. This is interesting. I'm having trouble conveying my information here because that wasn't what I was thinking. There's something wrong with my storytelling. So I'm looking at this gentleman here. He seems pretty intelligent. I have this question. When I say rapid, how fast was the vehicle going?
Over the speed limit.
Over the speed limit. What's the speed limit?
45 on a boulevard.
45. Oh, on a boulevard. Oh, okay. Are we in a residential or rural area in your imagination?
Suburban.
A suburban. Oh, you're a cheater. It's not urban. It's not out in the fields. It's suburban. Thank you. How about you? Do you agree with him?
I was thinking like 60.
60. And where was he driving? On a dirt road or in the suburbia?
Yeah, I was thinking more suburban.
Okay. How many people here actually pictured the boulevard as being out in the suburbia of America? Wow, you guys are alone. How many people here thought about it as being in the middle of a town? How many people actually did imagine where this vehicle was actually driving? A couple of hands. Okay. Why is all of this information important? Let me kind of back up and give you some background as to why I'm making this presentation. My name is Stephen Howard. I'm an attorney. I'm a reader for the law, which means I didn't go to law school. I read for the law, took the bar exam, passed it first time. Okay? Next to 50 other people who had gone to law school, had $400,000 in debt, and were at it the third time. So I'm feeling awful proud about that. As part of my activism, I make a series of presentations around the state of Vermont. That's where I'm from. Talking about activism, talking about outreach. I am also a certified storyteller. You didn't know that, but I am. I'm actually a certified storyteller. Let me tell you briefly how that came to be. During the first grade, I had a small problem with discipline. Anyone else have any issues with school discipline when they were young? No, I would be surprised about that. And so as a result, I was given the privilege of spending a portion of my summer re-educating myself, seemed appropriate, re-educating myself in how to behave in school. And at the beginning of the school year, or excuse me, the summer school year, I was told by my teachers that at the end of the school year, they would hand out awards for best spelling, best handwriting, best grammar, and the most athletic. Oh my God, the most athletic? Jesus, that was the thing. When I was a kid, I was a jock 100%. Every damn sport you could lay your hands on, I played. Not necessarily well, but I did play. And that's what I wanted. I wanted that award. That was the one thing. So every recess, I was out there knocking myself out. Every gym class, I was out there doing everything I was told, following the letter of the law. I was going to get that award. There was only one fly in the ointment. Only one person who could deny me that award. His name was Jamie. We went to school together. Well, when I was a boy, and to a degree I still am, I was built like a brick shithouse. That's what my father called it. You're built like a brick shithouse. I'm still not sure what the hell that meant, but it definitely meant short, stocky, a little overweight. Jamie was thin. He was stealthy. He was fast. So whenever we did any type of school sports together, he was always a little bit faster, a little bit more tricky. While I could basically bench press an elephant, the son of a bitch would figure out a way to make the elephant just to jump up and do it for him. That was the competition. And throughout that summer, we worked our asses off, him and I, in direct competition. And the final day came, and all the parents showed up for all the students. And we gathered in this great big circle, and out came the awards, the moment I'd been waiting for. Now, before this award ceremony, I was told I would get an award. And I knew what it was going to be. It was going to be the most athletic. So out came the awards. Best speller. Could care less. Best grammar. What the hell? Best attendance. What? That's an award? And then it came time. And now for the most athletic. Jamie Lachenal. Oh, damn it! I burst into tears. I literally wailed at the top of my lungs. I was crushed. I made so much of a damn racket that the entire ceremony came to a complete stop, and all the teachers descended on me. And they kept saying, Steve, it's okay. You're going to get an award. I didn't want any award. I wanted that award. Well, no, we got one that's really special for you. And they stopped the entire ceremony, and they said, ladies and gentlemen, we want to present this award to Steve. 3 weeks earlier, I had been on a trip to my uncle's beach house. And during that trip, he had put us on this boat. It was a speedboat. And two things you have to know about this. Unlike most shit, I don't float. Second of all, I'm scared to death of water. But somehow or other, my uncle and my father convinced me to get into this boat. So they had me put on this life preserver. And the life preserver was so huge, so out of proportion to where I was, that literally my arms are up like this, my head is up like this, and I'm trying desperately to look around and see what's going on. And they put me in this boat, and they take off. And he immediately decides it would be really great fun to get that boat to go as fast as it damn well could on a very small lake in the middle of Massachusetts. Not a good plan for me. And as I'm sitting there going, looking around, and saying, well, you know, I don't know if this is really a lot of fun, one of my cousins, who thought it would be hilarious, said, oh, look, there's a shark chasing us. Oh my God, there's a shark and I can't swim and I've got this thing on and I can't see what's going on. And so my uncle says, all right, then we'll outrun it. And he shifts that baby into high gear and the boat starts to bounce. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I want to go home. I want to go home. And they pulled up into the dock finally after going around the lake 3 or 4 times. And they said, quick, get Steve out of the boat before the shark gets him. And they threw me out onto the dock and they took off again. So like any good child, on show and tell, Monday morning, I shared that story with my classmates about how the shark almost got me. Later that day, the teacher had me retell the same story to all the other teachers. So there I am, tears rolling down my face 3 weeks later. I didn't get my reward. I didn't get the athletic award. Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to announce that Stephen Howard is the best storyteller in Keene. And that's how I became an award-winning storyteller. Of course, the downside of that was, and what they didn't realize, that in my family, when you're referred to as a storyteller, that means you're a liar. So I had just been called a liar by my teacher. I was the best liar in Keene. I was inconsolable. But I always remember that story. And I told it to my wife, and she's like, well, that's only natural. You are the best storyteller. And that's why I'm here today. What makes a good storyteller? What makes a person someone you want to listen to? The key, whether you're a witness, whether you're an advocate, whether you're just telling stories, is to create a bond between your audience and yourself. But more importantly, to give them a window into yourself as you're telling. Give them some understanding. Give them some way of seeing it as you see it. In other words, have them see it through your own eyes. Now, that exercise we just did is a prime example of what's wrong with one of the three types of storytelling. So, at this point, I'm going to ask you, what are the three types of storytelling? Do you know?
I came in late.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Who's been here? You, sir. Hold on, I'm walking over to you. I'm fat and slow. It'll give you time to think. Do you know the three types of storytelling?
Truth, fiction, and I don't know.
Ah, damn close. All right, no, the three types of storytelling are these. Joe Friday, my mother-in-law, and the storyteller. What do I mean by Joe Friday? How many people here are familiar with Dragnet? Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. That form of storytelling gives you everything that we're told we need to present as activists and as storytellers in order to engage the public. We give them the facts. Because, you know, damn it, once they know the facts, they're going to adopt our position. So let me give you an example. I'm going to describe an automobile accident. I was heading south on Route 7. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. I approached the intersection of Cold River Road and Route 7. And as I entered the intersection, because I had the green light, a vehicle, a Volkswagen Bug, pulled out of Cold River Road, hit me in the rear quadrant, caused me to spin, and I came to rest facing Jiffy Lube. How many people here could actually imagine anything that I just said? Yeah, you got an idea, but did you see it? The problem with the facts is it's devoid of enough information to allow you to perform a mental picture. The goal of every storyteller is to essentially put their audience in the seat next to them so that they experience the accident as you experience it. That requires some detail. So what's my mother-in-law? I love her to death. I think she's a really great person. The only problem is that she has no concept of TMI. She's of that generation that cannot explain where this person lives without describing every house between then and there, who's lived there, who are they related to, how are we related to them, how long have they been there, and you know what their kids did. I once made the mistake of asking her, what did she buy at a grocery store? 10 minutes later, I don't think I actually got the grocery list, but I did find out who she talked to and how they're related. Storytellers give you too much information. Or another way of calling it is verbal salad. And this is a common trend with storytellers. It's a stream of consciousness. Well, you know, I was driving down Route 7. I just got out of work, and Jesus, I was really tired. And I wanted to go over to my friend's house, and we were going to have some beer and watch some of the World Cup. And I had to stop at Hannaford's. And, you know, the missus wanted some milk and some butter. I don't know where the hell I was going to put it because I was going to stop at my friend's house, and his refrigerator's on the blink. And God only knows how he keeps any food in his house. And, you know, the car was acting up, and it really wasn't going that well. And I got to the intersection, and there was a lot of traffic in and out. And the traffic light, by the time I even get to the point of the conversation, you've lost. You're lost. You don't care. Shut the hell up. Verbal salad. Storyteller. It was 4:30 in the afternoon. The lighting was really good. Traffic was a little heavy. I was on my way to Hannaford's to buy some food for my wife and maybe head over to my friend's house to have some beers. As I approached the intersection of Route 7 and Cold River Road in Rutland, I looked up and I noticed that the light was green. So I proceeded into the intersection. And as I got about halfway in, I noticed out of the corner of my eye this flash of yellow. Suddenly I heard this crash. My head spun around. The car spun. I could smell smoke pouring out of the car. I thought the damn thing was on fire. I spun around a couple of times, and it took me a good solid 2 minutes to even get my head back together. And when I did so, I realized I was clutching the steering wheel. The windshield was broke. The door was dented in. And there's this big fat bastard standing at my window saying, "Are you okay?" Now you had enough information. You saw what I saw. You smelt what I smelt. You heard what I heard. Enough information to give your audience something to work with, something you can visualize. You see the intersection. You see the yellow Volkswagen Bug. I may not tell you it's a Volkswagen Bug now, but you will eventually. You saw what I saw. That makes a good storyteller. A good storyteller basically understands what it is that they're trying to convey. There's a point. There's a moral. But a good storyteller also understands how to describe. What you have to do is you have to put yourself mentally into that which you're describing. You have to basically say to yourself, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm feeling, and basically describe it. So let's try an exercise. Hi. You live somewhere, right? You have a home?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have to check with Free Staters because you never know. Do me a favor. Describe your home for us.
It's a 3-story house in the woods. There are no neighbors. I can listen to my music as late as I want, as loud as I want. There are 2 dogs, 2 cats. There's a basement, very nice basement downstairs, like the finished basement where it's not just like a basement, it's like got carpeting. It's really nice. I've got my bedroom, I've got my computer, it's like my little command and control center. Kitchen, nice kitchen, marble countertop. It's pretty nice.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have a 3-story building with 2 rooms in it and a cellar.
There's more.
Oh, no, there's definitely more. That's right.
I want to respect your time.
No, I got 2 hours. And I'm fascinated. We can talk for a while. What do you think? No. All right, if you want. Do you have kids? No. Kids you babysit? Okay, great. How many kids do you babysit?
Maybe like 3 on the regular.
Do me a favor. Just describe one of the children for me.
Okay, so one of them is named Lysander, and he just turned 4, and he has the cutest little eyebrows. He has his daddy's eyebrows, and they're round semicircles. He has a beautiful vocabulary, and he loves Batman more than Thomas the Train.
Wow, okay. Do you guys start to get a feel? Let me describe my house for you. It was a home that was built 40 years ago by my wife's grandfather to serve as his retirement. It's right next door to my mother-in-law's house. Oh, God, that works out. It's a single-story building. When you walk through the front door, you immediately see the ugliest blue paneling he could find. You swear he went to the dump to find this paneling. And it's a living room, about 20 by 15. And next to it is a very small kitchen where 2 thin people, would have an easy time preparing a meal, but 2 large people, like my wife and myself, it's a little problematic. If you look to your immediate left, you'll notice that there's a bedroom. And it's painted this psychedelic green that my daughter wanted when she was 13, but by the time she turned 18, thought it was really disgusting. Funny how that works. If you look to your right, there's a closet that is stuffed full of stuff that we have yet to figure out what's in there. We're not sure if there's a dead body in there or not, but we are looking into it. If you look straight ahead, you'll notice that there's a door that leads into a bedroom that we had added to the house. It's a long red bedroom, and it has the accumulated wealth of 2 40-somethings for the last 40 years of their life. A very small bedroom with a faucet that leaks and a shower that leaks. And then off to the side is a stair leading down to a full cellar, but because we're in Vermont, we happen to build on an area that is all swampy, so it's very hard to keep dry. The house is lightly furnished, but at the same time, because of how small it is, it's really hard to fit much more than what's in there now. That's what my house looks like. You should have been able to walk through the house with me. Dealing with my daughter. She's 20 going on 40. She's willing to take on anyone. She's a little over 5 feet tall. She has the attitude that could make her a leader, but the unwillingness to lead. She's a person that you would proud to have on your side and you would be afraid of if she's on the other side. She's someone that makes me very angry. It makes me very proud. That's my daughter. You don't have a picture of her, but you don't need. These descriptions here are what's important to them. Describing this child, describing the eyebrows, that must be a huge feature in that child. That's all I could see is these nice big rounded eyebrows. And the house, I mean a command center. And I had to mention the dogs and the cats. They're part of the house. You all approach it differently. You add the details that you think are important, how you describe it. Now here's the question, and it was posted to me on Facebook. Well, I'm in the media, and my job is to report the facts. That's true. You're in the media, and you're there to report the facts, and that's very important. But here's the problem. When facts get in the way of description, when facts become bare bone and unengaging, you're not conveying your story. Anyone can sit down now and read the dictionary. How many people actually sit down and read the dictionary? It's filled with facts. Oh, yes, there's always one in the audience. The point of it is it's full of facts. That's exactly what these words mean, but nobody ever reads it because it doesn't do anything for you. But how many people here read novels? Nonfiction. Because it's conveying information, it's important, and it's more than just facts and figures. History, one of my favorite topics, is more than just facts and figures, isn't it? It's about lives, personalities, opinions. That's good storytelling. And the better you're at it, the more engaged your public becomes. So let's talk briefly about some of the pitfalls that many people approach when it comes to telling a story. Now, I'm actually kind of borrowing from a presentation that I give my clients and witnesses when we're preparing for trial. I have a thing called the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments basically were developed watching people in court situations testify. And the reason I developed this was because I was finding that really good people, people with a lot of great information, were having a hell of a time conveying that information. And by going through these steps, it makes them more comfortable and gives them something to work from. Commandment number 1, be truthful. Even as a storyteller, be true to that which you are attempting to accomplish. There's nothing wrong if you're telling the truth. 2, when answering a question or conveying information, only answer that question. Okay? I know it sounds hard to believe, but if I'm asking you, what's the color of your car? And I get your make and your model and everything else, you're not answering my question. It's hard for me to focus. 3, my favorite, don't out-attorney an attorney. You see it all the time. I'll have a witness up on the stand, I'm doing a cross-examination, and I will ask them a tough question, which, by the way, inside information, if an attorney's asking you a question, they already know the answer. They know what you're going to say, and they're waiting for you not to say it. And then you see it. The eyes narrow. They lean back, and you can see the smoke rising from their ears. Why did you ask that question? What is it that you're getting at? I know. I'll answer it this way. And then you'll ask me this, and I'll ask you that, and bingo, I got you. And so they go. And I just sit there and wait. Great. And I fold it back in on themselves. Audiences are smart. They see when you're playing with them. The best question I've ever asked anyone, and I ask this all the time, especially in custody fights, is this. You're proposing a visitation plan for my client. My client doesn't think it's fair. Do you think that plan is fair? Yes. Yes, I do. Great. So if the court were to order this plan and apply it to you, you would think it's a good plan. They never say yeah. I don't know why. What you have to realize when you're telling a story is that you've got to be consistent. You can't outthink yourself. You can't outthink your audience. Next one. When answering a question, remember, you shouldn't use words like, you see what I mean? Like, it's like this. You know? See? Here's the problem with that. First of all, your audience doesn't know. You're telling the story, they don't. Assume your audience is ignorant. Be sure to include enough detail so you don't have to use the words, you know, because they don't until you tell them. See? Unless you're holding up an object and showing it to them, see is meaningless. See what I mean? No, I don't. You need to explain it. If you're not sure I'm getting it, you need to explain it. And like. Like is the biggest danger. I was at a presentation the other day where the presenter was up there. She was adorable. I loved her very much. She had a lot of great information, and every third word she said was like. And I started counting. In a 10-minute period, she used the word like over 50 times. I stopped listening to her at about 12. I started laughing at about 40. My wife had to tell me, grow up, you idiot, at about 50, and I stopped counting. What's wrong with like? Like's a perfectly good word. But as I told my daughter when she was younger and she started learning public speaking, if you can insert the following phrase whenever you get the urge to use like, you're good. The phrase is the following: I have sympathy for, or it's similar to but not quite the same as the object I'm about to mention. If you're using it either as I have some empathy for you, I like you, or it is similar to but not quite the same as, well, this is like that, you're perfectly all right. Other than that, please don't use the word like. I was at a trial. We had a witness on the stand, a teenage witness on the stand. I'm sitting here taking copious notes, and periodically any good attorney always looks at the trier of fact, in this case the judge, to see are they paying attention, how are they reacting. And I notice the judge would lean forward, make a check mark, lean back. A few minutes later, the judge would lean forward, make a check mark, lean back. I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, so I started paying attention to him. And then I suddenly realized, she'd say like, he would make a check mark. He was no longer listening to her, he was keeping track of the number of times she said like. That was an ineffective witness. She had a lot of great things to say, but the judge was lost in the likes. Your audience will get lost as well. When you're telling a story, your story should have a story arc, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And your story should be consistent throughout. It should be true. So the characters that you begin with, the parties that you begin with, should be the parties at the end of your story. The worst thing you can have happen is you end up with a Tolstoy novel where you have characters being introduced at the very end of your story. You have to bring everybody together. You have to put them in your world. So again, you have to assume that if you mention Uncle Charlie, they have to understand who the hell Uncle Charlie is. Okay? So let's go through a quick exercise. Let's talk about your last activism, the last act that you did in public. Anyone here did anything as far as being out in public and doing public outreach? Nobody? Oh, we have one, we have one. You guys have already talked to, and we have this gentleman, I talked to him, and no one else is brave enough to put up their hands. Okay, I'm gonna start. Oh, and this young lady right here. Okay, so what I'm gonna ask you is very simply this. Describe where it occurred.
I do all of my activism from home on my computer. So I run a YouTube channel and teach people about philosophy and try and start the philosophical renaissance.
Philosophical, ooh, there's a nice powerful word. Philosophical renaissance. Okay, what do you mean by that?
So basically change the hearts and minds of the people surrounding us outside of this movement and try and start open lines of communication with them so they'll think logically and rationally about their own lives.
Okay. That's great too. How is that a philosophical renaissance?
Because it's the revolution of the mind. It's changing the minds. It's changing their minds.
Oh, okay. So her YouTube channel is about changing people's minds, about changing the way they look at the world? Yeah. And she's doing it through an electronic means. So let's take her story briefly and kind of throw it back. Remember, I had questions. Let's see if we can sharpen her story. She's an online activist with her own YouTube channel. She's committed to changing the minds and the way people think about the world around them. She's turning her YouTube channel into a way of communicating, not with herself, but with other people. And her goal is to achieve a philosophical renaissance. That's cool. It is, it's very awesome. When telling a story, you have to be passionate about it. When you're an activist, you have to be passionate about it. This girl's passionate. But what she presented and what I presented, which one was a little more clear? The reasoning is because I took her basic idea, where she was, her party, her objective, and we turned it into something that is clear and easily understood. That's your key. Walk through your story. Think about it. In all honesty, whenever I do public speaking, first of all, I drive my wife nuts. As I'm coming into any one of these presentations, I kind of fold into myself. Today's presentation has occurred 100 times before today. I practice what's happening. I think about my audience. I try to anticipate what they may need. The other day I did a presentation on fair boothing. Fair boothing, I've done this presentation hundreds of times live, thousands of times in my own head. In each and every circumstance, I practice and I rehearse in my own mind. As storytellers, as activists, as people who inform, before you even speak once, you should prepare and think about it. And think about descriptive words. It's not enough to say car unless the car is unimportant to your story. However, it is important when you're trying to convey that image, the importance of the car. By the way, to go back to our mental exercise, Pat in my mind was a guy. The car he was driving was a black Alfa Romeo Spider. The speed he was going was 40 and a 35, and the boulevard was a street in the middle of a city. That was what I was attempting to convey, but because I only gave you very little information, clearly no one had that in mind. Yes, that was my mistake. I meant to say the car, but I ended up saying her car, and that's perfectly all right, but that's what I had in my head. So let's talk about how do you create audience interaction. How do you get them to at least listen to you? Some of you may have noticed I've stared at you, which, by the way, no, I'm not stalking you. I'm trying to create a link. I'm trying to create a sense that we're having a conversation, because that's what storytelling really is conversation. My God, the amount of stories you guys tell on an average day and you don't even realize it. When you're sitting at the kitchen table, when you're lying in bed in the morning making plans for the day, when you're talking to your coworkers about some stupid idiot on the phone who wanted something really ridiculous, you're all telling a story. You ever had a conversation with someone that wouldn't look at you? Boy, wasn't that a compelling story? Second thing as a storyteller is you have to share of yourself. You have to be willing to put yourself in the story, to talk about your feelings and your observations. Now, today is tough for me. Let me tell you a story. We had stood for about 3 hours, unsure of what was going to happen next. We were ready for any result. The three of us had come to support a friend, a person important in our lives, a person who is new but yet we had immediately bonded with, someone special to my daughter. We stood out there, desperate for any information. We were stuck in the middle of a courthouse, a cold, empty courthouse. Most everybody had gone home. The court had been running late. We kind of knew what the result was going to be, but we were hoping. The door opened to the courtroom, and the first thing we saw was our friend in tears. A grown man, 29 years old, who had made mistakes early in his life, but he was making something of himself. He was striving to be a better person. He was someone who cared deeply about his child. And he had just been given the news. They were taking that child from him. I won't go into the facts, but we were aware that a lot of this was hearsay, a lot of this was assumption, a lot of this was bureaucracy, but it didn't matter. A little girl just lost her father. And as he came out, we could do nothing to make him feel better. And a couple of minutes later, out of the courtroom, which I was surprised to see, was this little 6-year-old clutching a doll that some social worker had given her as some way to create a bond with this child. And the child, with the social worker immediately behind her, walked up to her father in tears. And she knew what was happening. We knew what was happening. But we had to keep the brave face. And as tears streamed down this thin little girl, and as the father fought to make it okay, she handed him that doll and said to him, "You keep this. Give it back to me when I see you again." I practice law. I deal with this on a daily basis. I can't get that image out of my head. There's something wrong with the system that creates this situation. There's something wrong with a system that tears families apart. There's something wrong when a small child has to go into a courtroom which terrifies grown adults and inform them, "You're not going to see your dad for a while." And she doesn't understand why. And as that child left, and the father was in tears, I told him, "Hold on to the doll. And the next time you see her, show her the doll. That's her promise to you." And I hope he gets to fulfill the promise. This is a true story. This is a story that is part of my life that I'll never forget. It's about abuse, not by a father, but by a state. It's about the feelings that this child and this father had. And I don't mean to bring you all down, but I hope you saw what I saw and felt what I felt, because that's what storytelling is about. When you're an effective speaker, when you're an effective storyteller, you should be able to bring people into that room, into that hallway, and see what you see and feel what you feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. The best storytellers are the ones who always give themselves in their story. So let's turn it to something a little happier. Right now I'm having trouble thinking of what that would be, and I don't mean to drive everyone away. All right, so we've asked people about their first PorcFest. Again, I want to see some more people have joined us. Who's here is first time at PorcFest? Great. Ha ha ha, audience participation, I love it. Saves me the trouble of speaking. No. You. Actually, what's the one most memorable thing you've experienced so far at PorcFest?
Well, this is the first time I saw anybody open carry. I'm from the Netherlands, where that's illegal and frowned upon, and you can go to jail. And besides that, everyone is amazing. like-minded people. Love it here.
So open carry, that's the thing that really stuck out for you. What was your reaction the first time you actually saw someone carrying a rather large caliber weapon?
It's not scary at all. I feel safer around them than other people. I mean, cops with guns. Yeah, it was okay.
Okay, great. All right, who else was first timer? Yeah, we got him over here. Yeah. Oh, you looked bored. Man, you look bored throughout everything I've been saying. This man is, oh, Jesus, when is he going to finish? Actually, so this is your first time at PorcFest? Yes. Okay, great. How did you hear about PorcFest?
I'm a libertarian. There's almost no way, if you are in any way involved in this community, you can't hear about PorcFest. It's the legendary place which everyone tries to go to.
Okay, so before you got here, what did you really think it was going to be like? Describe it for me in your own mind before you got here.
Quite frankly, my main experience of PorcFest from the outside was through Adam Kokesh.
Uh-oh, bad example.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I think you know where this is heading down the funnel.
No, I don't. I do not know. You need to tell me. What was your impression?
More guns than I thought even. Adam Kokesh, as he said, Adam Kokesh was on about the guns constantly. And then you come here, as that gentleman has already pointed out, you feel safer here than you do with the cops outside, which is something you don't expect. There's food here which is completely safe to eat, probably safer than the food you're going to find at your local supermarket, which is completely unregulated here compared to the regulated supermarket. And notably, no sales taxes. I wasn't aware of that before I came. That was a happy surprise for me. I know you asked about what I was expecting. Right. Happy surprise, no sales taxes.
Shh. You're ruining the myth. You're ruining the myth. Go with the myth. Don't break his vibe, man. He's doing it. Go ahead.
This is being recorded, so shh.
What, first time, right? Okay. So I've asked him what he thought was going to be expected, and he didn't answer the question. By the way, if you were here earlier, answer the question that's asked, not the one you want to answer. And we have the gentleman from the Netherlands, which I'm really, to be honest with you, the thing I find the most fun about PorcFest is the number of foreigners, Flatlanders. For us in Vermont, you all are Flatlanders. Anyway, coming here and really enjoying the vibe. But I'm going to ask you this. When you came here, what one person really stuck out in your mind and why?
A person that stood out? I can't remember his name right now. And this goes back, I guess, to the open carry. I'm from Canada. I'm from Saskatchewan. Well, I'm living in Saskatchewan or Saskatchewan.
Okay, we got another illegal here.
And what stood out in my mind was, as I mentioned, with the open carry, I saw him carrying the rifle on his back. And I was thinking about, we just had a shooting in Moncton, and it was the exact same image that went through my head. But my reaction was probably different than any other citizen in that city, was that he's a person. He's not harming anybody. He's walking along, and I saw a person, not a gun. I saw a flower in the barrel, and I saw a flower pot. I didn't see something to hurt people. I saw something that he owned and that he loved and that he took care of.
No, you don't get that at home. Actually, I'm surprised. You guys need to come to Vermont. And the only reason I say that is because in Vermont, we number the people who don't have guns. My mother-in-law, who, by the way, is 80-some-odd years old, actually has more guns than the goddamn United States Army. And actually, one of the things that scared me the most was that the first time I came to their house, they have a sauna. By the way, my wife's extraction is Finnish. Anyone here familiar with the Finns? Whenever a Finn sets up a home, the first thing they build is a sauna. Then they build their house. Sauna. Sauna is sauna. Anyway, on the back of their sauna is this array of antlers from a lifetime of hunting. And after seeing that the very first time, I knew two things. One, there were no damn deer anywhere near this location. And two, if I ever messed up with their daughter, they would be putting my antler up on that wall. It's quite an impressive array. And in fact, the biggest complaint my mother-in-law had when she had her knee surgery was the fact that she wasn't allowed to go hunting. There's a lot of guns in Vermont, guys. So anyway, I just thought I would share that. Now, there was someone over here that was kind of waving at me, wanted to talk. Nope, no. So let's kind of expand a little on this. My first experience at PorcFest. I was sitting at home, and it all starts with Ron Paul, right? So I was cruising one of the Ron Paul forums when suddenly I noticed, oh, wait a minute, there's this Liberty Forum thing happening over in New Hampshire. Now, I was born and raised in Keene, New Hampshire, so to me, this is just a hop, skip, and a jump. You know, Mrs., would you like to go and check out that whole Porcupine Freedom Fest? Of course, my wife was just desperate to get out of the house. So we bundled into our Toyota Corolla, which was actually on its last legs, and we jumped deep into the White Mountains, gun stock. And we arrived on the last day of PorcFest in 2007, I believe. And when we arrived, 3 things immediately stood out for me. The phenomenal number of beards that just slapped you in the face. And I'm not just talking beards, I'm talking beards. It was like mountain men had gone wild. Second thing, the guns. Now, I'm not talking numbers, I'm talking calibers. Dude, there was somebody walking around with a 50 cal. It's like, how the hell did you get that off that Humvee, dude? What? You're walking around with a 50 cal? What, were you afraid a mouse was going to attack you or something? The third thing that struck me was the conversation. There's 3 things you don't talk about when I was a kid. Religion, politics, and that thing that mom and dad does in the bedroom that we really don't want to know about, but you know, there are 8 of us and we kind of figured out what the hell you were doing. By the way, my folks never had a hobby. Anyway, they were talking politics, but not politics like TV was talking about it. They were talking about it in a personal, philosophical way. It was so cool. Of course, when we got there, they only had 1 tent, and they had like 20 vendors, and they had this flatbed truck out in the middle of a hot sun with people talking with a microphone system that you couldn't hear a damn thing. And then there was this tent down below where all you could hear was the hooting and hollering of overly inebriated individuals enjoying themselves with a variety of substances. And as we drove away, I said, we've got to come back. That was cool. Here we are, 7, 8 years later. When we went, 500 people. Today, 2,000. Before, it was a flatbed truck open in the middle of the field to the safest place in the United States for 1 whole week. It's a place where freedom and markets prosper. It's where conflict resolution occurs as the way it should occur. It's the place where anytime a cop shows up, you know he's there because there are at least 50 to 100 people surrounding the car saying, "Are we being detained?" That's the PorcFest I've come to know and love. So if this is your first time, you've got to come back next year because it's going to be way cooler. And it's going to be cooler because you're there. More importantly, when you're gone, talk about the event. Talk about what's happening. So let's kind of talk about how to communicate power words, things that work. Don't try to speak like an attorney. That was the first thing I ever learned, by the way. Don't ever go into court and speak like an attorney. No one will hear you. Use the language you're comfortable with. Don't use words that you're not familiar with. Use power words. Don't be submissive. Be aggressive. Let me give you an example. Well, you may like what I have to say. That's submissive. You'll love it. That's aggressive. Look your audience in the eye. Challenge them. Put them in your shoes and have them confront their biases. trying to think of the example. There was one time where I actually got up. My wife gave me hell for this once. I got up and I actually get up. Oh, I was at a wedding. It was my niece's wedding. I had been asked to speak, sort of a toast. And of course, prior to that, you had the preacher running his mouth about, the whatever's made in heaven is, can never be asunder, and, the love and the beauty, and got really poetic about it. And then I got up there. And I said, I have to disagree with the Reverend. Love is not about giving. Love is actually selfish. Love is selfish. And by that I mean, I want someone in my life so badly that I'm willing to exclude everybody else and only hold on to that one person. I want to wake up in the morning and feel special, and that person gives it to me. I want to know that whatever my troubles are, that person will be there to share it with me. It is selfish. It's about making me a better person by having that person in my life. That's what love is. It was a longer speech, but I began by throwing everyone a curveball. As my wife sometimes refers to it, it's a journey with you. We never know what the hell you're going to say next. That's the key to storytelling. You want to keep them interested. Where are you going? Why did you mention that? Why is that important? Think about this. When you're reading a novel and you already anticipate what's going to be on the next page, do you actually turn the page? If you know what's going to happen next in a TV show, do you actually stick around for it? Actually, watching TV with me is kind of ridiculous, because once I've recognized the script from something that was broadcast back in the 50s, I have to shut it off, or worse yet, ruin it for my wife. I know what they're going to do next. Murder mystery shows are wonderful for that one. It's like my daughter gets pissed at me. She loves the program Castle. I don't know if anyone knows this. She loves Castle. She records it on my DVR, in fact, to the point where she's erasing my programs. And I'll watch it, and like half hour in, okay, that's the murderer. Dad, why'd you do that? And then she'll watch to the end just to find out whether I'm right or not. I'm usually right. The point of it is that if you know what's happening next, why the hell would you listen? If you know what's happening next, why the hell participate? When you're dealing, and I'll get to your question in a minute, when you're dealing with the public, do something that kind of throws them for a loop. Get them into your story. In fair boothing, it's called the hook. You ask them something and give them an answer they don't expect. In storytelling, you have a hook as well. You get them involved by throwing them the hook. Give them something. Case in point, whenever I explain the Nolan chart, how many people here are familiar with the Nolan chart? Okay, it's the world's smallest political quiz for the rest of you, if you're not familiar with it. And basically, it's a very simplistic little quiz. You answer 8 questions. You score those 8 questions. You then put your score up on the chart, and the chart is broken up into quadrants. Libertarian on the top, statist on the bottom, right and left. Whenever we use this, and when I say we, I'm referring to Vermonters for Liberty. Whenever we use this in a booth, what we do is we put 2 dots at the beginning. 1 dot representing Republicans, 1 dot representing Democrats. And we take a thick black line and we draw it between the 2. Then we ask people, have you ever taken the test before? No. Well, here you go. Here's a chance. It's real quick. We'll get you going. We'll then plot their dots. And then we'll ask them a question. Where do you think the mainstream is? What do you mean, where's the mainstream? Where do you think on this chart the mainstream would be? Now, if you're familiar with the chart, there's this centrist position right in the middle, which is supposed to represent a point where all political opinions somewhere meet. Yet, if you listen to the media, according to them, the mainstream is down in the statist paradigm. If you were to take the Democrats and Republicans and you were to apply their individual platforms to the 8 questions in the world's smallest political quiz, they would have come across as statist. Yet, whenever we do this world's smallest political quiz, any guess where most of those dots on the chart show up at the Libertarian, away from the mainstream line. That's that hook. We say, wow, where do you think the mainstream is in relationship to all these dots? Oh, it's up here. I go, oh, by the way, this is where the media tells you the mainstream is. Let's talk about why. In your stories, you have to have that hook, that point where you challenge their assumptions. You had a question. Walk over.
So are you saying there's a problem with listening to a story that you've already heard before, or is it bad for conveying a message?
Okay. That's a good question. What it is that you want to keep your listener involved. How many here have children? A couple people. Okay. Whenever your child conveys a piece of information to you for the fourth time, how long do you listen? Not very long at all. I have a very good memory. Actually, it's annoying. As a kid, my parents would get a copy of the television guide every Saturday. And for whatever strange reason, I would read the entire thing. And my folks used to ask me, Steve, what's on television tonight? And I could tell them exactly what the channel is and what program is on. The problem with telling a story again and again and again is eventually the audience stops listening. Unless you add new information, change the story up a little, eventually your audience is going to become bored. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't relate the same information to different audiences, but in all honesty, people, you got a feel for my wife. She's heard all of these damn speeches at least 100 times. She could probably give it herself if she wanted to, but she's no longer listening. She's politely sitting there, smiling her smile, basically saying, all right, I could either be doing the bills right now, or I got a few phone calls I could make, but I'm going to sit here, make them feel supported. That's why I love her so much. All right, so let's get into it now. We've got 1 hour left. I know this is a long time. But let's start talking about activism. How do we take facts and make them interesting? When you're relating information, and that's the key to activism, I still believe that activism is bringing things to the forefront, to the public who may not hear it. You are the alternative media. The first thing you have to realize is this: preparation is always key. When relating factual information, be sure that you take the time to know what you're doing. An old saw in the legal profession is this: for every 1 hour of court time, there should be 3 hours of prep time. For every document you introduce into evidence, there's at least 2 to 3 other documents you will never get in. But you got to come into court with everything ready to go. The same thing with storytelling. If you're there to convey information, know your stuff. Know it backwards and forwards. Know it in a lot of different contexts. Second of all, be prepared. Be prepared to answer tough questions. But third, make it interesting. And by that I mean, it's not enough to say, this morning I saw on RT television that the gross domestic product for the first quarter 2014 showed a decrease of 2.9%. That's a fact. I don't care. What is a fact that you might care about? The other day I was at the store and I was making a purchase. There were 3 people in line. And the one person said, I'm buying this gift for my granddaughter for her birthday. I really can't afford it. I haven't had a raise in years, and everything's getting more expensive. Whereupon the store clerk said, yeah, you know, you're right. Everything seems to be getting a lot more expensive. So the first one says, you know, why don't we just abolish birthdays and we could save a lot of money? And I chimed in and I said, you know, it's funny, when I was a kid, I could buy chewing gum for 50 cents a pack. Now I have to take out a mortgage buy chewing gum. Nothing to do with the 2.9% decrease. But now we've laid the groundwork. Have you all noticed how hard it is to make ends meet in this day and age? Yes. Have you noticed that things aren't getting better, even though they keep saying it's getting better? Yeah. Do you know that the gross national product actually decreased 2.9%? Did you feel that? I certainly did. You certainly did. When you place into context what's happening and you develop a relationship with the person you're talking with, you can insert some really great facts with some really great information and really great opinions. Storytelling is just that. When you're knocking on the door, you're doing cold door knocking, they give you a script. By the way, there was a certain campaign that actually handed out a script and said, this is what you need to read. Don't read it. When I was cold door for Ron Paul, hi, I'm here handing out information with someone who could hopefully change your life. His name is Ron Paul. He's running for president. This guy changed my life, and I think it'll change yours. Would you like some information? Give them a piece of you. Keep it interesting. I know I'm trying to talk over the top of the zombies, and I apologize if I'm not talking loud enough. Give them something of yourself. Keep it interesting. Okay? All right. Wow. Audience participation time. What are you passionate about? Hold on. I walk real slow. I'm very fat.
I am passionate about making things.
Many things. Choose one. Making things. Okay, what do you make?
Right now I'm working on a temperature data logger.
A temperature date logger?
Data logger.
Data logger. Okay. Explain to the audience why that's important to you.
It's a device that I needed for an experiment I was doing a couple years ago, and it didn't exist, so I have to make it exist.
Okay, what's the experiment?
Oh, there was a heated chamber, and we were trying to figure out which is the best way to control the temperature inside, so we need to log the temperature at a few different points in the volume.
Wow, okay. So now you're really getting me interested here. So first of all, you created this device. What exactly was the intent of the device?
Just to record temperature over time.
Okay. And the device that you mentioned this chamber where temperature on the inside. What exactly was that for?
Oh, it's a 3D printer.
3D printer? Oh, okay. Wait a minute here. We got a 3D printer. All right. So are you passionate about 3D printing?
Yeah, not as much as I used to be. It's passé now, but...
Okay, he's gone beyond us. I'm very fascinated by the 3D printer. So, getting back to the original question, so you were engaged in 3D printing, and part of the exercise involved this chamber, correct? But you guys were having trouble establishing what the temperature was in the chamber?
Sure.
So, being a good libertarian and agorist, you developed your own equipment to measure that temperature?
More or less. We bought something and now...
Oh, okay, cop out. Making a new thing. Okay. So let's just take that example. He's presented some pretty, well, first of all, the 3D printing, I would have led with that. I mean, that's a great hook. But second of all is the idea that he took something and he made something else, which is also something you're passionate about. So talking about a thing that you're passionate about, you should lead with why you're passionate about it. Give them a context and tell them why. Why am I passionate about, as an example, why am I passionate about outreach? When I was a kid, the extent of any type of political discussion was what I heard at the kitchen table and what I saw on television. One day, somebody handed me a book. Ain't nobody's business if you do. And this was the first time I had read anything of that nature. That got me involved in thinking about liberty and made me passionate about it because he confronted many of the myths that I myself had held about victimless crimes. And I keep going back to that because at that time I was on the other end of the political spectrum and somebody challenged my ideas of liberty. My efforts in the community is to be that guy again, to give you that one piece of information that will challenge your paradigm, to make you see the world slightly different and maybe get out of that rut that is the status paradigm. That's why I'm passionate about it. When you, as a storyteller, try to reach to the community, remember, again, draw from yourself, use your experiences, seek connections. Did you have your hand up? No? Okay. I'm sorry, I thought it was out of the corner of my eye. So let's kind of wrap this thing up because, again, we've kind of exhausted the topic to a certain degree, and I've kind of repeated myself several times. But I wanted to end it on this note. Storytelling is more than just the oral art. It is also the written. It's also an ability to convey to another person through your art. Storytelling is the ability to create that connection and make people feel your sincerity. Your sincerity comes from yourself and your core, if you will, that which you believe to be true. Your experiences, that which you have experienced. And there's nothing wrong as a storyteller to use your experiences to inform your words. More importantly, it's your job to bring to your audience your message in a way that they can understand. To put them in that seat next to you to see the auto accident. To put them in that courthouse when that child left the courtroom in tears. To understand why liberty is so important to you. You can spend all day quoting Rothbard. You can spend all your time using Bureau of Labor statistics. But the truth is that if you want to have an impact, you want to affect the world around you, you have to take that information, take those raw facts, and become the storyteller, to add substance and to add power to your words. Descriptiveness. A willingness to reach out to all the senses, not just what you heard, but what you saw and what you taste and what you smell. It's a willingness to be enthusiastic, to feel the energy, and to convey that energy to the people around you. It's a willingness to put yourself out there, to share a part of yourself, and in turn hope that they will share some of themselves. It is something you have to practice. It's something you have to, in essence, repeat in your head time and time again. It's not something that just easily comes off the lips. It takes practice. But you have ample opportunity. There are many people in this world today who know nothing of what you know. You all, in and of yourself, have a lot of wonderful stories to tell. So I guess really the most important thing is to be brave enough to tell them. And also brave enough to fail. Sometimes we don't make the connection. When you're in an audience like this, sometimes you're just not going to connect. That's no problem. There are people out there who may be listening. When you're in an audience like this, sometimes you feel intimidated. That's okay. Something you have to remember, they never know what you're going to say next. They don't know what you have to convey. Only you do. You know when you make a mistake, they'll never know. When you're in an audience like this, by creating connections, you can feel comfortable. So if I were to make any recommendation for anyone who has fears about public speaking, look them in the eye. Talk to them. You have no problem with this. Just there are a lot of people listening in. Now, probably there are no questions, but I'll ask, are there any questions? We have ample time for that. No? Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And just a reminder, tomorrow at noon, I believe, up in the LRN media room, I'll be doing a presentation called Working the Spiel, where we'll be talking about activists and actually working on what I call your spiel. It's a 2-minute speech, or less, or more, that is meant to empower and to essentially get your point across in a quick and effective manner. And it will be also audience participation, much more than even today, okay? So if you're interested, great, and we'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, thank you guys very much.